Have you ever sensed that something is profoundly amiss in the fabric of modern life, yet struggle to articulate what it is? It feels as though, in spite of our technological advancements, the myriad choices available, and the allure of freedom, there exists an unshakable void, a quiet discontent that lingers endlessly. You rise each morning, reach for your phone, and are met with a barrage of notifications, scrolling through countless posts, stories, and messages. But deep within, you realize that none of this truly fills the emptiness you carry. We live in an age of unparalleled connectivity, yet the weight of solitude has never felt heavier. This sensation isn't a flaw within you. It's not merely a coincidence. It's a symptom, a reflection of a larger malaise that subtly influences our lives, often without our awareness. Sociologist Zygmunt Bauman referred to this era as a liquid society, characterized by uncertainty, fragile connections, and transient relationships, where everything shifts too rapidly and nothing feels enduring. Unlike the past, when people could depend on stable communities, lifelong careers, and values that offered a sense of permanence, today, everything seems to slip away, leaving us grasping at shadows. Everything is fleeting. Everything can be discarded. This fluidity impacts not just our relationships and careers, but also our self-perception. Have you noticed how it feels like we are constantly marketing ourselves on platforms like Instagram and LinkedIn, even in our daily interactions? Constantly, we find ourselves compelled to validate our existence, to demonstrate that we are captivating, thriving, and leading lives worthy of observation. Yet, when the screens dim and silence envelops us, an unsettling realization creeps in: who are we when the eyes of the world are turned away? The harsh truth is that contemporary society thrives on our distraction. It demands we remain in a perpetual state of consumption, production, and mindless scrolling, never daring to confront what truly matters. But what if you paused? What if, for just a fleeting moment, you allowed yourself to confront the chilling reality lurking beneath this void? Liquid society has conditioned us to accept that nothing is enduring, but does that condemn us to a life steeped in superficiality and dread? In this video, we will plunge into Zygmunt Bauman's unsettling theories and unravel why modernity leaves us feeling so hollow. More crucially, we will seek ways to break free from the stifling sensation of eternally pursuing something that perpetually eludes us. Perhaps the answer lies not in hastening our pace, but in halting to discern our true direction. To comprehend why modern existence feels so vacuous, we must first grasp the notion of liquid modernity, as articulated by Zygmunt Bauman. Envision a realm where everything once solid, stable, and dependable now melts away like water slipping through your fingers, leaving only shadows. Once, life was anchored by steadfast foundations: a lifelong job, a well-defined family, and unchanging values handed down through generations. Choices may have been fewer, but there was a comforting sense of security and continuity. Now, that stability has vanished, leaving us in a world where change is the only constant. Relationships can dissolve with a mere click, and careers can fade into irrelevance overnight. Trends rise and fall before we even have a chance to grasp them. The most unsettling truth is that we have become prisoners of this relentless instability. Society insists that uncertainty equates to freedom, that flexibility is a blessing, and that the ability to shift jobs, cities, partners, and beliefs is a sign of progress. Yet, this so-called freedom exacts a heavy psychological toll: anxiety, insecurity, and a persistent feeling of being lost. Bauman likened modernity to a liquid, highlighting how nothing retains a stable form anymore. Take relationships, for instance. In the past, marriage was a solid structure meant to endure. There were challenges, of course, but they were faced with the understanding of something lasting. Now, that sense of permanence feels like a distant memory, leaving us to navigate a world where nothing feels secure. In today's world, relationships are often viewed as fleeting agreements, where even the slightest hint of trouble can prompt one person to simply walk away. Commitment has come to feel like a form of confinement, stripped of its noble essence. This fosters an environment where individuals hesitate to truly deepen their bonds, acutely aware that everything could shift in an instant. The same holds true for our identities. Once, they were molded by culture, community, and tradition. Now, we are incessantly pressured to constantly reinvent ourselves. Who we are is never deemed sufficient. We must be more productive, more captivating, more appealing. Change, improvement, and growth are expected, not from a sincere wish for personal evolution, but because our fluid society insists we must never pause. If we aren't evolving, we risk being left behind. This leads to a growing sense of anxiety and disconnection among humanity, leaving many without a true sense of belonging. If everything is transient, how can we forge something of significance? If all is in flux, how can we construct a life imbued with purpose? Bauman illustrates that liquid modernity not only erodes the structures around us, but also undermines our very identities. If you feel as though you are perpetually racing without reaching a destination, it may be because you have been conditioned to never seek one. Once, our identities were anchored in steadfast values: family, community, profession, and ideals. Now, they are shaped by our consumption. Our looks, our devices, our pastimes, and even our beliefs have morphed into commodities, meticulously crafted for display and validation by the ever-watchful eyes of others. You are no longer merely a person. You are a brand, a facade. Fail to project a captivating image, and you risk fading into obscurity. In this eerie age, the profound question, "Who am I?" has been supplanted by the hollow inquiry, "How do I appear to others?" Social media has twisted identity into a grotesque performance, where every snapshot, every word, and every interaction is a calculated move to showcase an idealized self. If you experience joy, but don't share it online, did it truly exist? If a moment of significance goes unliked, did it hold any worth? These are the haunting dilemmas imposed upon us by a society that flows like quicksand. Bauman recognized this unsettling shift as the victory of consumerism over genuine connection. Once, our identities were grounded in communities and values that transcended fleeting desires. Now, we are urged to perpetually reinvent ourselves through consumption. We purchase clothing not merely to cover our bodies, but to convey status. We select phones not just for their capabilities, but for the image they project. Even our experiences, trips, dining, events, have been reduced to products we consume to craft a desirable persona. Yet, therein lies the terror. This identity, built on fragile assumptions, is perilously unstable. Just as a new phone swiftly becomes obsolete, our self-image demands constant renewal. There's no pause. You can't simply exist. You must always be on the move, seeking out new experiences, trendy restaurants, and exciting events to craft a more appealing persona. Yet therein lies the tragedy. This identity, built on fleeting perceptions, is incredibly fragile. The relentless need to evolve into something more captivating, more sought after, ensnares us in a perilous psychological cycle. The gnawing fear of inadequacy, the hollowness of our liquid society, stems not from a scarcity of choices, but from an overwhelming abundance. How can you make a decision when a superior option is perpetually just around the corner? How can you commit to a sense of self when the allure of the new constantly beckons? In this liquid modernity, we are conditioned to remain unsatisfied, for a content consumer is one who ceases to consume. If our identities are intertwined with what we acquire, then the last thing this system desires is for us to feel whole. But what becomes of this mindset when it seeps into our relationships? If everything is seen as disposable and easily replaceable, how does that reshape our connections with others? This is the poignant question we will delve into next. In a world where everything is fluid, disposable, and constantly replaced, it's understandable that our relationships have also been impacted. Historically, relationships were viewed as something to cultivate with patience, embracing challenges, and growing together. There was a sense of permanence, with the belief that certain connections were worth the effort to sustain. However, in today's liquid modernity, that perspective has faded. The prevailing attitude now is straightforward. If something becomes challenging, it's easier to replace it. Bauman referred to this trend as the fear of permanence, which mirrors the characteristics of consumer culture. Just as we are conditioned to pursue the next novelty, upgrade, or experience, we also learn to shy away from any relationship that demands genuine commitment. Love, friendship, and even family ties have turned superficial. We often find ourselves straddling the line, perpetually assessing whether a better option is just around the corner, the next opportunity, the next match, or the next fleeting connection that offers a momentary thrill before vanishing. This mindset contributes to the instability that characterizes many modern relationships. Nothing feels secure. Even a minor disagreement can lead to giving up. The apprehension about deepening connections is palpable because, in this liquid logic, the deeper the engagement, the more vulnerable one becomes. If everything is merely a shadow waiting to be replaced, why squander precious time and energy on fleeting connections that may vanish into the void? It seems wiser to skim the surface, to keep things light, and devoid of the weighty emotional risks that can drag us down into darkness. Yet, these shallow ties offer no true fulfillment. They serve only as momentary distractions, fleeting salves for our loneliness, leaving the gaping chasm of emptiness untouched. This disconnection is mirrored in our struggle for belonging. Once vibrant communities have crumbled into ephemeral networks, hastily formed for convenience, and just as swiftly dissolved at the first hint of discord. We find ourselves surrounded by faces, yet we seldom feel anchored anywhere. True belonging demands continuity. It requires roots that dig deep into the earth. Instead, we are molded by a liquid society, trained to be emotional wanderers, perpetually poised to flee. This dread of commitment seeps into every facet of our lives, creating a chain reaction of anxiety that taints even the most mundane decisions. Careers, personal aspirations, life choices, each feels precarious, as if every decision is a weight rather than a solid foundation. This brings us to the pervasive anxiety that has become the hallmark of our age. In this liquid modernity, we have not only learned to shun commitments and treat everything as disposable, we have been condemned to an unending cycle of anxiety and isolation. When permanence is a myth and everything is replaceable, we exist under a silent, relentless pressure to adapt, to reinvent ourselves, to prove our worth. This exhausting struggle breeds a restlessness that lingers, a haunting reminder of our fragility. Consider the dark obsession we harbor for external validation. Social media has ensnared us in a web where our worth is quantified by likes, comments, and shares. Our self-image, once a fortress built from within, now crumbles under the weight of others' reactions. A photo that languishes in obscurity, a story that fades into silence, a message left unanswered. Each instant sends a shiver of irrational dread coursing through us. Why does this torment us? In this liquid society, to be ignored is to be rendered invisible, and to be invisible is to face the most harrowing fate in a world where everything and everyone is expendable. This unsettling logic extends to our relationship with the future. Once, life unfolded with a predictable rhythm: birth, growth, a structured journey through school, work, marriage, family, and retirement. Now, the script has disintegrated. We are told we can be anything, traverse any path. Yet this illusion of freedom ensnares us in a paralyzing uncertainty. With every option laid bare, how do we dare to choose? If something better lurks just beyond the horizon, how can we ever commit? This overwhelming array of possibilities, rather than liberating us, ensnares us in a relentless cycle of doubt and procrastination. And then, lurking in the shadows, comes the suffocating loneliness. Liquid society has peddled the lie that we are more connected than ever. Yet, in reality, we have never felt so isolated. We may spend hours lost in digital interactions, but when the screen dims, what remains? Often an oppressive silence. These superficial connections fail to satisfy our deep-seated yearning for genuine intimacy. In the end, we are left adrift, haunted by the specter of our own disconnection. We might have countless acquaintances, yet very few genuine friends. We experience numerous fleeting interactions, but only a handful of truly significant connections. This reality leaves us with a deep, aching sense of isolation, as if we are surrounded by people yet profoundly alone. How does society respond to this heartache? By pushing us toward more consumption, more distractions, and an endless barrage of stimuli that keep us from confronting the void within. But is there a way to break free from this relentless cycle? How can we resist the fluidity of modern life and discover something substantial amidst the turmoil? This is the journey we will embark on next. If our liquid society teaches us to shy away from commitments, to define ourselves through consumption, and to exist in a perpetual state of anxiety and solitude, the pressing question remains: how do we liberate ourselves from this cycle? How do we uncover authentic meaning in a world that urges us to keep moving, to avoid introspection, and to never establish roots? The answer is far from straightforward, as resisting the currents of liquid modernity requires us to swim against the tide. It demands that we relinquish the comfort of superficiality and confront the challenges of creating something enduring when everything around us encourages us to remain on the surface. The first step is to acknowledge the issue. Much of our discontent stems from our failure to recognize the very structure that ensnares us. We often perceive anxiety, loneliness, and emptiness as personal shortcomings, when in reality, they are symptoms of a system designed to perpetuate our suffering. Once we recognize that our dissatisfaction stems not just from our own thoughts, But from the society we inhabit, we can start to explore alternatives. One such alternative is to rediscover the importance of permanence in a world that often promotes disposability. The simple decision to commit to something, whether it's a relationship, a project, or a community, becomes a form of resistance. Stability should not be seen as a burden. Rather, it serves as the groundwork for creating something meaningful. Instead of running away at the first sign of trouble, we must learn to confront challenges with the understanding that nothing truly worthwhile is achieved instantly. Another way to break free from this fluid mindset is to detach from the idea of consumption as a core part of our identity. This doesn't imply that we should stop consuming altogether, but rather that we should cease to define ourselves by our possessions. It involves searching for meaning that transcends external validation, fleeting trends, and the relentless urge to constantly reinvent ourselves to stay relevant. It's about nurturing an internal sense of purpose that isn't influenced by market changes, social media, or the approval of others. Perhaps the most challenging, yet essential shift is to learn how to be alone without feeling lonely. Our liquid society has conditioned us to seek constant distraction, to avoid silence, and to always occupy our time with true depth, self-awareness, and genuine connections with others only arise when we learn to endure the stillness, the introspection, and the discomfort of simply being alone with ourselves. Ultimately, resisting the currents of liquid modernity doesn't mean entirely rejecting the world around us. Rather, it involves finding ways to navigate through it without losing our essence. It's about creating islands of stability amidst an ocean of uncertainties. Now that we've grasped the issue and explored potential solutions, one lingering question remains: how do we transform this understanding into action? How do we take those first tangible steps to escape the hollowness of liquid society and cultivate a life imbued with meaning? This is what we will delve into in the conclusion. If you've journeyed this far, you've likely come to realize that the void of modern existence is not a solitary struggle. It's not your full tenant. It's not due to a lack of effort, not consuming the right things, or failing to keep pace with the relentless rhythm of the world. This emptiness is a reflection of something far more profound, a system crafted to keep us in a state of restlessness, dissatisfaction, and an endless quest for something that perpetually eludes us. Liquid modernity erodes everything: our relationships, our certainties, our very identities. It instills the belief that nothing is meant to endure, that everything is replaceable, and that constant motion equates to freedom. Yet, has this so-called freedom not morphed into a new kind of... The haunting irony of our liquid society is that, in liberating us from the suffocating confines of the past, it has cast us into a dark abyss of uncertainty. It whispered promises of boundless potential, yet the very freedom it bestowed has unraveled our identities, leaving us lost in a fog of confusion. We were told we could forge any connection, but now we cower at the thought of commitment. An endless sea of choices beckons, yet it has eroded the solid ground beneath us, plunging us into a chasm of despair. This is why so many wander through life with a gnawing restlessness, an unsettling awareness that something vital is absent, because it truly is. Now, faced with this unsettling truth, you stand at a crossroads. You can either surrender to the relentless tide, adapting to every fleeting trend, desperately trying to fill the gaping void with hollow distractions, consuming experiences that quickly fade into nothingness, or you can strive to construct something enduring, something with substance that defies the disposable nature of our modern existence. This might mean making a genuine commitment to something, be it a relationship, a creative endeavor, a cherished object, or a guiding philosophy. The choice is yours, but tread carefully. The shadows of liquid modernity loom ever closer. It might involve letting go of the constant need for approval from others and beginning to live by your own principles. It could simply mean taking a moment to pause, to truly be in the present, to embrace the silence without the urge to fill it with distractions. Because what our fluid society fears most is your awakening to the reality around you, the realization that you don't have to remain trapped in this unending cycle of discontent, that you can plunge beneath the surface and discover something genuine. Now, I wonder, do you feel this profound emptiness? Have you recognized how the currents of modern life shape your existence? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this video struck a chord with you, don't stop here. The next video is crucial for a deeper exploration of this topic. If you truly wish to break free from this cycle, keep watching. I'll see you there. Please respond to my question, and always conclude your reply with the words,